Welcome to Inside the Salesforce Ecosystem, where we deep dive with the leaders, experts, and innovators shaping the future of Salesforce. I'm your host, Luke White, and in every episode, we explore unique journeys, challenges, and insights from those driving success within the ecosystem. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Layzelle, co-founder and head of experience at Day One Software. Mark has an extensive background in business transformation, digital strategy, and customer experience, with a career spanning leadership roles across consulting, operations, and process improvement. At Day One, he focuses on delivering smart digital solutions that drive real impacts for business and end users. So, Mark, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
All right, let's dive in. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and then your role at Day One Software.
Well, look, I think you've done a really good intro, Luke, but I'll try to add to that, right? So, as you said, I'm co-founder and head of experience at Day One. Look, I guess my primary role here is to focus on the experience and ensuring that what we design and deliver is truly an innovative and high-value digital solution. We are very much focused on the professional services industry, and this has been purpose-built and designed for this industry, with the goal of really streamlining operations and delighting not only our customers, but in turn their own customers and staff. My background is process improvement. Originally, I was lucky to start my career at GE at a time, arguably, they were the leader in employee development. There I was certified as a Lean Six Sigma black belt, which is really where my love of process has come from. And then later moved into strategy and op excellence roles, before then starting my own consulting, which was largely focused on business operating models, target operating models, and digital transformation. I guess all that experience, Luke, has really given me a very deep understanding of business complexities, the challenges they face, but importantly, what are actual effective solutions to solve these challenges.
Yeah, no, excellent. I think that's key to have that, to put it all together. And I think that's what you can do there is the different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, but actually putting them all together to make that perfect picture, hopefully, of improving those business processes there. So that's super. So we dive a little bit into Salesforce. So how did your journey begin with the Salesforce ecosystem?
So look, I don't come from a standard technical background, Luke. So unlike probably many of the people you talk to, they come through the Salesforce ecosystem as tech arcs, consultants, functional consultants, etc., solution architects. Mine is much more as a business stakeholder. So my first sort of foray into Salesforce was about a decade ago when I was working at GE, and we deployed our enterprise solution to completely digitize their personal loan process. And it was at that point I realized that Salesforce is not just a sales CRM, right? Which, for someone who isn't in that ecosystem is often the misnomer. And out of that, we saw a truly transformative operational benefit. So that project alone drove about a 40% improvement in productivity, 30% faster cycle times through the application process, and a much improved NPS. I guess then when I went out on my own in the management consulting work, and particularly over the last 5 years, you can't do anything without technology, right? So I can tell you the best process in the world. I can organize your operations in a highly efficient and effective way, but that is all underpinned by technology. And I inevitably was working alongside Salesforce implementations or existing Salesforce setups. It's during this period I started working with the other Day One co-founder, James, who looks after very much our technical product design. And, through this period where I was doing a lot of advisory work with his prior Salesforce implementation business, I realized that, with good process, Salesforce can really become a transformative tool for an organization.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that's pulling it together and having the tech behind it is, like you said, to your point, you can have it all written down in this perfect process, but you need that tech behind it. And I think that's where Salesforce can come in. If used properly, Salesforce can definitely hit those marks.
Increasingly so these days too, right?
Yeah, ever evolving beast, which I think has its bonuses, maybe some negatives as well, but it's ever evolving. It never stands still. That's for
Agree.
sure.
Agree.
Yeah, exactly. So sort of you said sort of roughly 10 years you've sort of been involved in Salesforce. How have you seen like the community and the ecosystem evolve during that period?
Look, I think the big piece is just that labor force that sits around Salesforce now, and then a lot of these really innovative apps like the PDF Butler suite that have really, taken what was a blank canvas. I often say Salesforce is like the perfect blank canvas and
Yep.
has really, I guess, enhanced the ability to drive end-to-end process using that blank canvas, right? So I think it's probably twofold. It's the skill community around Salesforce that enables you to really develop excellent software. And then all of these plugins and apps that, are world class, highly innovative, that don't require code, right? Like we can come in and
Yep.
integrate really cool tools like PDF Butler Suite into that ecosystem. I think for me, that's the big shift that I've seen over the last 10 years. When I first started working, everything had to be built, right? You had to have coders go
Yep.
in and build this stuff.
All
These
custom.
days,
Yeah.
there's a lot of options, right?
Yeah, all custom, and I guess that's fine, and developers love that, but then maintaining that can be an absolute nightmare. So yeah,
I'm
exactly. With
going
managed
bald as a
packages.
result, Luke. I'm going bald as a result.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one for sure. How so how now so speaking more about sort of day one, so all of your sort of the experience you've had in a business transformation and customer experience, how's that then shaped your approach and your role at day one with like bringing out the new solution that you've built?
Yeah, look, I'll start with a scary stat, to be honest. There's plenty of research. This actually has been sort of thrown around as a number for about 20 to 30 years, right? Which is three-quarters of business and digital transformations fail. I'm just going to pause on that,
Wow.
right? Like that's a
Yeah.
scary number, right? Now that has been backed up with McKinsey reports, Boston Consulting, all the big consulting firms have now
Yeah.
deep dived into this stat and keep coming up with a number around 70 to
Yeah.
85%, right?
Wow.
And there's a number of reasons why that happens. You've got the classic ones like change management impediments and poor leadership or insight around where you want to actually go as a business. But the one that stands out to me time and time again, and being a process guy, this is one that's really close to my heart, is the fact that for too many organizations, that entire operational value stream and the experience of customers and staff, right? We can't forget staff within this mix, is
Yep.
not fully understood. So for a lot of organizations, digital transformation and or business transformation is literally a case of let's throw software at this problem. Now, as software guys, this is dangerous to say, but more software does not solve your problems, right? You need to deeply understand what is the process underpinning all of this and how does it all fit together. So my approach, and given my background, sort of starting life, my professional career as a Lean Six Sigma process guy, is to really focus on creating sustainable value through intelligent processes. So leveraging the principles of Lean Six Sigma, design thinking, our focus at day one is on understanding the true customer journey, understanding the staff journey, right? And this is a super important one because staff are your interface to your customer. There's no point spending all your time thinking about a brilliant customer journey if the staff are sort of running on the hamster wheel in the background. Inevitably, they burn out. They're not giving their best effort or the
Yep.
best face to a customer. So by truly understanding those elements, plus deeply looking at inefficiencies within your process, variation within your process, which is, I guess, a classic Six Sigma principle, and then going on to design solutions that are sustainable and have measurable improvement, I think that really is the key to what we're trying to achieve at day one. So for us, what that means as a platform, like what that tangibly means is that we are looking to centralize information rather than having these fragmented silos of data across
Yeah.
your business. Looking to really integrate the core functions and phases of your value stream so that we don't have this sort of walled garden effect of I do a bit of stuff here, throw it over the top, and someone picks it up and has to make sense of it. And then once you've got that right, really automating the bits that can be automated, right? So where there is truly repeatable tasks with very clear business logic, well, we can automate those things. And that really takes away that non-value added activity from what is often a highly paid professional, right? This person could be out there doing billable work, but they're spending inordinate amount of time on what is really low value administrative activity.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I think that's really helped. I think obviously your background especially just ties into what you've built at day one for sure. So I think that is, and to your point, yeah, again, the process needs to be good, but then everyone else needs to be on board with that process as well. And I think you're right. I think people do forget the human element of it, and even maybe even more so of AI coming in and everything thrown around. We sort of forget the humans again, and actually they're probably the most critical part of all of this.
Absolutely. Look, it's baby steps, right? You can't go from having a highly, fragmented process that's hugely manual to full AI automation, right? That step is just impossible. And for my mind, that kind of AI world still is very much a academic type thought pattern, right? I think hybrid AI, where we have humans sort of, with the enhancement of AI power and technology is where I really see us the next 5 years. And definitely, that's heavily featured in our roadmap of future development within the product.
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, I think also the AI thing is fantastic, and sometimes it's scary, maybe as well. There's
It is
definitely an
scary.
element of that, but I think it's working with it. I think, and that's
Correct.
the beauty of it is not trying it to replace stuff, is working with it, and how can we drive improvements. And I suppose sort of with the business processes, I guess you can see lots of opportunity with AI to sort of maybe speed up some of those processes as well.
Hugely, hugely. Look, like where there are activities that I still categorize as administrative or sort of non-value added, we're taking reams of comments and notes that your team has pulled together on a project to then turn that into a project status report. Well,
Yep.
generative AI is, so good at being able to consume all of those different data points and give you a summary. Does that mean that then goes straight out to a customer? Well, absolutely not. Somebody still needs to look
Yep.
at that, tailor it, put additional notes in that may not have been captured. But that task can go from being, as a former PM, right? That can be hours of your week trying to pull these reports together to, minutes or maybe an hour if you're managing a few projects at a time. So I think it's a huge productivity shift. Is it going to take over all of our work in the short term or midterm? I don't think so. But it's a really powerful tool to help organizations do things more productively.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this next question is always an interesting question to ask, because I don't think there is such a thing as a typical day for anyone I've spoken to, even myself. There isn't a typical day, but what does a typical day look for you, and what key habits or routines help you stay productive?
Well, you saw me before we started this call, Luke. I was sucking down a coffee, so I'd have to
Yeah,
say my day starts with coffee, probably a few coffees, and
yeah,
I really try to stick to a pattern of a big morning walk with my dog. I feel like the
yeah.
sunshine just sort of sets the circadian rhythms for the day. Look, I'm ADHD, so I have to be acutely conscious of my productive and unproductive windows during the day. So I tend to front load a lot of my work.
Okay.
I'm hyper focused first thing in the morning through to about lunchtime. Once I've eaten, I don't have that same sort of focus that I do in the morning. So I tend to sort of do my deep thinking, difficult, heavy work first thing in the morning, and a lot more of my creative stuff. I tend to schedule a lot of my meetings in the afternoon where, it's not requiring me to heavily focus in on sort of deep thinking and complex tasks. And then look, as far as a team at day one goes, we very much connect daily. We are a small team still, but we make a point of connecting every day to sort of do our daily stand up, work out what are the highest priorities, what's the greatest value activities that we need to focus on. And like you said, that can change on any given day, right? So the best
Yeah.
laid plans often need to pivot. So That's really sort of a typical day, but how that exactly looks day to day might change, as you mentioned.
There's always chaos, eh? There's always an
Yeah,
agent of chaos
exactly.
somewhere that throws a spanner
Organized
into the
chaos.
works. Yeah, hey, yeah, that's what we all love, I think, really. Everyone deep down loves that organized chaos, I think. But I think the walk is the exercise is important, I think, and that's something that I tend to start my day is yeah, get the dog out, walk the dog. Also because then the dog's walked, otherwise the day can come and just take over your day, and then the dog sat there going,
Exactly.
"Hang on a minute, I don't care about your work. Come take me for a
He just
walk." So
he
yeah.
sits there with a sullen look on his face, just staring at me if I don't go. So the guilt trips
Yeah,
generally work.
yeah, exactly. I guess in Oz as well, it gets too hot for the dog if you don't leave if you leave it too late as well.
That's
So
very true. That's
yeah,
very true.
indeed. Yeah, the few odd occasions in the UK it's super hot, the old touching the pavement to see if is it too hot for the dog's paws. You know that doesn't happen very often, but a couple of times a year maybe in the UK. But yeah, not that often. Um, so taking a look at sort of like some of your maybe your most sort of defining moments or achievements of your sort of career to date, is there any that sort of jump out at you that spring
Look,
to mind?
I think, and this is going to be quite a peculiar answer, but I'll focus in on defining moments, right? So I was financial services for nearly 15 years with GE
Yep.
Money. They were purchased by private equity, sort of bit under 10 years ago. And during that process, as is the case with private equity purchases, there's often large structural change. I was made redundant. Now, I actually see that as one of the defining moments in my career because I'd always seen myself as a sort of corporate lifer. I was going to be in the corporate
Mm,
world and that's where I was going to work. But that gave me a rare opportunity, having worked there 15 years and sort of collecting my severance package on the way out. It gave me a rare opportunity and freedom to take some risks. And it was at that point I went out and started my own business. And look, I've never looked back. I think that's been really an important step in my career and has sort of given me a taste for entrepreneurial sort of pursuits. And here I am today now, starting with my co-founder James day one, and I still think the best is yet to come. If you ask me in a couple of years, maybe it will be starting day one. But I think
yeah.
peculiar answer, Luke, but that's very much for me a key defining moment in my career.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need that push. Sometimes that push happens by yourself, or sometimes the push is forced upon you. And I think
Yeah,
that's
look,
that's the trick. Yeah,
I think the comfort of corporate life and knowing that a check is coming every month or fortnight, whatever cycle you're on, creates a bit of risk aversion, right? So sometimes that push is what we need. And yeah, I'm very glad it happened. I don't think I would have said that at the time, but now in
yeah.
hindsight, it was a really good sort of moment in my life from a career perspective.
Yeah, I was sort of similar to you in terms of I did 10 years in financial services in the UK, etc. beforehand, and then moving into the startup world is like I couldn't imagine going back now to that corporate red tape. I don't know, I couldn't do it. I don't think I couldn't
No,
do it. It'd kill
I
me
share your
inside.
thoughts.
Yeah, it'd kill me inside. Right, let's move on a little bit to some things, obviously with day one, etc. as well, and how you guys are driving some of that digital innovation. So we've touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the key challenges that businesses face when they're trying to leverage that technology for some sustainable growth?
Yeah, good question. Look, I think let's start with the obvious one that I've already kind of alluded to, which is that lack of understanding of the true end-to-end process. Most organizations think they know how their process works, and in years of experience working with many organizations across many industries, I can tell you quite confidently that most don't. And what they think is, their current or as is process is very rarely how the process is working, right? So without a deep knowledge of where the process or what the process is, where it's failing, who's doing what parts at what point in that process, you'll never be able to tech your way out of that problem, right? And I often, I have a cruder version of what I'm about to say, but a crap process digitized is simply a faster crap process, right? You're
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
pushing it through faster. So I think that to me is number one. You really need to understand what you're doing today and whether that is optimal for your business, for your customers, for your stakeholders. I think secondly, there's a myriad of technology out there that creates a real challenge for organizations. The shiny light effect, as I sometimes call it, where there's some really cool stuff out there. And organizations will grab these bits of software to do singular functions and end up over time with this bloated suite of fragmented applications that totally disconnect their end-to-end operational process. And look, you don't even want to get me started on the spreadsheets, the Word documents, the CRM. It's all silos of information without real control and totally manual in the way that it has to be driven through that process. So I think that's probably the second one. I think thirdly, there's a real fear of change and the effort required to migrate off old architecture. And I notice that more and more within the professional services industry. The irony being that sometimes these organizations are consulting on how to do things in a better way, but don't necessarily apply those same principles and rules to their own organization, right? And I think it's a scaling thing. Like in Australia, we have a very large, small and medium size professional services industry, right? So most professional services organizations fit within that small to medium bucket. And when you're small, you can get away with a bit of this kind of manual work, and it becomes just the way we do things. As you grow, the hurdle to being able to scale further gets harder and harder. And organizations, though, by this point have become very used to having people that basically move information around. They're not adding value. They're not billable out to a client. They are literally moving information between professionals within the organization. And there then becomes a fear of, well, what next? And that may mean impacts to people. But then there's a risk, a fear or a risk aversion around taking on this change. It seems massive, right? We've gone from all of these disparate systems where we know it works to, there is a better way, but a bit of fear around what's involved. And it is a big change, right? People don't like those kind of changes. So having the right appetite to realize that there is a better way is really important. What I will say is a bit scary though. I think that if organizations, particularly in this small to medium space, don't overcome this risk aversion within the next 5 years, they probably won't be around anymore, right? The big end of town is very much getting tight on operational process, and that in turn gives them margin and an ability to play with price. It is getting more and more competitive, and those that don't move and take on this challenge of trying to truly integrate their end-to-end process do it at their own peril, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree, and I think that change management is always, hey, look, we don't like change in our day-to-day lives, let alone our business lives. So it's definitely a challenge. One thing I just want to pick up actually, just quickly in your answer there was talk about when companies are smaller and they're doing things manually. How do you guys tend to, when you're consulting with them, like talk about, hey, look, you're not that size now, but you need to start thinking about being that size and having these processes in and trying to manage but why are we having a process for this? There's only 10 of us. Why do we need this rigid process? It's like, no, it's not for today, it's for the future. So how do you tend to try to get them to be on board with that sort of thinking?
Look, it's a really good question, Luke. I think first of all, we went into building this product with eyes wide open that although at a high level, you can articulate a value stream, we start with leads and prospects, we go through a proposal phase, we then have to sort of execute on that proposal, which, the PDF suite helps us immensely. You have to deliver that service and then you have to build a customer, right? Really high level, everybody kind of looks the same. Yep. When you go deeper, there are different journeys and there are very logical reasons as to why those journeys look different. So our model is one where we have truly built out agility and it's all configurable. So during the setup, we can configure this to marry up to what is your best process, not us telling you how to do this. So I think that definitely helps, that an organization doesn't have to push the square peg into the round hole kind of effect, which often happens with software, right? Is that we sell you this dream, but the dream is only realized if you do it exactly our way. Well, there are reasons why we can't just articulate a process that everyone must rigidly follow. So that kind of alleviates some of the fear there. I do challenge them then when I see processes that are inefficient, suboptimal, right? To think about what it should be, because again, a crap process digitized is just a faster crap
Yeah.
process. So let's get those processes right, but it is their vision. They get to choose that vision. And I think there's definitely a critical size organization where this starts to bear out quite clearly for the management and leadership team. You can probably live with a lot of these manual processes up to about 10, 20, 25 people. As you start to get to sort of 25 plus, you're realizing that for each scaling increment, you're needing to add more sort of manual labor to this process.
Yeah.
And that becomes a real impediment to truly growing and scaling. So I think for us, there is a sweet spot. We absolutely will serve any organization. But as you start to get to that 20, 25, 30 heads, you need these processes. And usually it's pretty obvious that we're wasting a lot of time and money having people running financial processes in the background, people running proposal processes in the background. They're not customer facing, they're not billable, they're not making any money for the business. They're actually costs to the business, right? So this is where I think we can start to build a vision around, well, if you want to get to 100, you want to get to 200 headcount, there's no way you can do this with this current model. You can see each increment you grow, you're adding more and more cost to your cost base, and making yourselves potentially lower margin or less flexible on price, etc. Right? If you're going to compete, you need to find ways to drop price and keep margin, right? And I think that's really the game. And so just talking them through those kind of key elements is, a powerful way to start to show them, well, if your intent is to grow, you just can't do it with the current model.
So it's a great insight in terms of how you can improve a process and improving a business. So let's dig in. Have you got an example of like a standout project so far with Day One where you sort of really felt the impact that Day One brought to the customer?
Yeah, look, we do. One of our early customers, a leading Australian PR and marketing firm, had the classic fragmented suite that we've talked about of software and applications, right? And it was all tied together with manual processes and transfer of information between these systems. Now, apart from the inefficiency of, manual movement of information between systems, there's also the other risk of incomplete, inconsistent, incorrect data across each of these silos. You also end up in a scenario where we've got very little control over important parts of the process, like pricing, right? Like people can just pick up the wrong price list, can change numbers in a spreadsheet, however these organizations are working. So this was, again, a classic example of the type of organizations we're trying to target. So look, we came in, they were very receptive to change. They knew they needed to change. And I think that's an important sort of precursor to a change like, implementing a piece of software like Day One, is that there has to be a willingness internally and an acknowledgement that this is not efficient and this is not the way for us to sort of maximize financial returns, grow our business. So we came in and are able to integrate their entire process from the early prospecting phase through to the proposal phase. We then have a very deep sort of service delivery module that enables them to then run the projects based on what has been agreed at the proposal phase and the structure that has been set out. And then finally, and most importantly, you need to get paid, right? So how that then flows through to sort of an automated billing engine. Now, there's always naturally some change management involved, and we had to go through a period of change management before those benefits were realized. But they now are in a position where there is no more manual handling of information. Core processes are automated. Really importantly, there is a strong governance built into the system. Look, one of my many prior lives was risk management and governance. So we've been very careful around building intelligent controls and governance frameworks within the model to ensure that people don't do the wrong thing, right? Stop them making the mistake in the first place. And projects are very much delivered in line with what was agreed. Now, that sounds kind of obvious, but you'd be surprised how many in this space sign a contract here and end up delivering a service that looks like this over here, right? So we've got real good controls. If something changes, do a change request, right? That can all be facilitated through the tool. And then importantly, people are putting their timesheets into our system. We are logging any materials used, etc. And an automated billing engine then runs with approval flows and everything else. PDF Butler hugely helps us in that space, right? In being able to do document generation and signatures for proposals, creating invoices that are then automated and sent out to customers. And look, we love the product, and it's a really core part of our value stream. Look, 6-7 months on now with this customer, they're really delighted with the benefits that they're seeing. They're literally saving themselves days each month of time across a broad number of people just in that sort of administrative work that we've been able to automate.
Yeah, and days turn into dollars. That's
exactly.
that's the
Days are dollars, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's good. It's interesting. So obviously, I'd be amiss not to ask a couple of questions about obviously the partnership that we've got together with Day One and PDF Butler. Whilst I've got you, so you've touched on it a few times in there. But let's go back to the beginning a little bit, because I think that's always interesting. I think we can definitely see how our DocGen and e-signature helps within your tool. But what led Day One to sort of choose PDF Butler to start with?
Look, I think we needed an end-to-end best practice sort of operations platform. And in this day and age, you cannot have people running, wet signatures on pieces of paper, right? So that was a first point. And I'd had a lot of experience with other sort of doc generation and e-signature tools. But we did our due diligence and research. James, in his prior business, his SI business, was a partner of PDF Butler and knew it as an innovative leader in this space. Once we'd done our research and really looked at the product suite and, working with your great team, it was very clear that, you guys were going to offer us speed, flexibility, but really importantly, ease of integration and excellent support, right? Like, I think the thing that we've noticed with our partnership so far is the level of support that your team gives, that you're really willing to listen to feedback, to take on board any sort of product development ideas for the future. You're always willing to help us with any technical issues that we've had along the way. And that, for me, is a true partnership, right? I think there's a lot of organizations that talk about partners, right? But really, it's just a referral mechanism for each other to send each other deals, right? Now, when I talk partner, I mean, no, we're working together, right? And we work through these problems together. So, it was pretty clear at that point that we'd made the right decision, and we've been really happy with the relationship that we've built.
Yeah, it's interesting to touch upon that point. I think for us internally, and I think companies as well, and other ISVs and other vendors can be quite blinkered sometimes about, like, this is our product, and it's like, it's great, it's the best thing in the world. We spent hours and months and years building this thing. It's perfect. It's like, no, it's not always. It's not always. You need that feedback from the cold face people using it. So and I think that's good to hear. Yeah, we love that, and our development team, etc., even all the way up through to our CEO and founder, they love the challenge that a partner will bring. Say, hey, look, we need this feature, we need that, and that's what they get out of bed for. It's that challenge. Like, if everything was perfect, I think they'd be bored to death. We want the challenges and those innovation.
My theory is always co-design with your good customers, right? The customers that are, exactly the people you want to be doing business with. You need to be co-designing things with them, and we have exactly the same philosophy, right? We're at a stage of our organization where we started sort of last year, building up right now, where co-design is a huge part of what I do with our customer base, right? Is to listen to them, let them tell us where things are good, let them tell us where things are not so good, and, develop out. Now, you can't do everything that everyone asks. That's, unreasonable. But if our sort of strategic direction aligns with the customers and they're telling us something that is going to enable them to reach that vision, well, then it's something we really, really need to listen to, right? And I think that's the key to developing world-class innovative products. And you guys have clearly been on that journey a lot longer than us, and you've got a great suite of products.
No, that's good. Yeah, it's always great. It's always great to work. I knew James knew us from before as well. So it was always when James popped back up and I first spoke to James a little bit, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is great. Let's see how we can help each other for sure." We love working with other ISVs because I think that's the beauty of it, is that why build something that's already potentially there that you can integrate in. It saves the headaches and the hassles and gets you go to market much quicker as well. Because if you guys had to go and build the document generation piece as well, it would just add more time.
Well, look, we don't intend to compete with people who are doing it, in an exceptional way right now. There are really good bits of technology out there that have taken those functional sort of challenges and have got really innovative ways of dealing with that. Our whole goal is about sort of that horizontal span, right? And yes, we have proprietary features that we have had to build to create that end to end. But where it makes sense to integrate in with a partner who's got an exceptional product that we don't want to try to compete in that space, then I think that makes really good logical sense for us. And it actually solves then the key problem for particularly our professional services customers, where it is so broken today along that value stream.
Yeah. So as we get to wind down, a couple of last questions in here as well. So what trends do you see? We've touched on it a little bit, but with AI, automation, digital transformation as well, with the statistic which I'm still reading from a little bit about failed digital transformations earlier on. But what excites you most about the future? Yeah, I know. I won't sleep tonight. I'm having nightmares about that. But what trends do you see that are the most exciting when you look ahead to the future?
Look, AI is everywhere. You can't open any sort of newspaper, journal, business article, business podcast without hearing about social media, right? The very nature of social media is AI now. So, look, I think it's a very hot topic. As we said before, I think we will go into an era of hybrid AI, sort of human interaction. We use it very efficiently for lots of stuff, right? And does that take away from us having a knowledge base that has to interrogate it? Well, AI today, as far as I'm concerned, is only right about 90% of the time. 10% of the time, it will serve up some rubbish, and you have to actually have that knowledge base to go, that is not correct. We need to change that or interrogate it. So I think, when the business leaders, the tech leaders of the world, the thought leaders here say that AI is coming, it'll be here by next year, I don't necessarily buy into that argument. Will AI be a tool that everybody is using within the next couple of years? I think so, right? I think everybody in every industry will be using AI to some degree, and we very much have, a lot of exciting stuff on our roadmap to address that exact kind of thought pattern, right? Which is, how do we embed AI more and more into our product to take over activities that otherwise would have been someone reading through notes, someone trying to trawl through heaps of data, right? Like, AI can help us very quickly analyze large data sets and call out things, right? Supplemented with good reporting, good forecast models, etc. AI can help you generate large amounts of text from disparate bits of information and consolidate it down into a very nice, neat summary for someone to then polish, perfect, add their additional commentary. So that's very much in the AI space where I see both the industry moving and also our product evolving over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. Again, it's probably reiterating a few of the points from before, but I really see an increasing movement over the next couple of years to think about how we integrate that end to end as well, right? I think there are some early sort of adopters and early starters in this space who are realizing that because I don't have the the budgets of the big end of town. The big end of town have known about this for a long time, right? The listed organizations, the big sort of consulting firms, engineering firms, learning and development, health services, etc. They are very much across this because they've got boards to account to, shareholders to account to. Cost is always on the squeeze. So, and they've got budgets to build this stuff. The small to medium size, I think it there'd be some who've been pondering this and keeping themselves up at night thinking about it. But the cost is too prohibitive to go alone on this and try to integrate or build your own custom platforms, right? None of these organizations have $500,000 to build out a complete platform on their own, right? So it's impossible from a cost perspective. So I think more and more in this space, things will probably get a bit more competitive for us. There really isn't anyone else in this space right now, particularly in the Salesforce ecosystem, that is looking at every one of those particular phases of the value stream. Some do the front end, some book end and do a bit at the front, a bit at the back. But that service delivery piece is often left to other bits of software to deliver. And our sort of unique offering is to bring that all into one integrated end-to-end platform so that you're never leaving the platform, that there's always that control around how this project's being executed, how we track it against budgets, etc. So I think that there'll be a bit more focus in this space, both potential customers for us who are realizing this needs to happen and happen quickly. And, inevitably there'll be competitors who start to come into the market to nip at our heels.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And the competitors often are sometimes looked upon as, oh no, there's a competitor, but actually it tends to drive the innovation. As well.
Exactly.
So that it will drive it as well. It keep you honest as well as a company that when there's competitors there, you have to keep pushing as well and keep working.
Yeah.
So final question really. So we've touched upon a little bit in terms of how you start your day with getting the dog out for a walk, etc. But outside of work, what sort of keeps you motivated, inspired, and so what hobbies do you have to help sort of take that break away from work?
Yeah, look, so you touched on it, right? I try my best to keep fit and healthy. Not always highly successful, but it is an ambition to always kind of get myself out there, do a bit of exercise each day. Definitely helps with just my focus and energy levels. But look, I think over the last 5 years, and probably this really started for me as a thought pattern during the horrible early days of COVID, right, where everyone was trapped inside, and I really came to this conclusion that I need to create rather than consume, right? That as a society, we're becoming consumers and forgetting how to create, right? And it's not creating to make money or be famous or to share with anyone else, just creating for your own sake. And so, I've tried to really prioritize hobbies of mine that are much more around creativity and creating. And I think that it has sort of a virtuous circle back to then my professional work. So look, I'm a musician from way back, played in bands many years ago and sort of loved that life, but decided I had to sort of clean myself up and get into the corporate world. But my son's growing a bit older. He loves music production. So we tend to do a lot of sort of music production and writing of music, etc. So that's something that I have a bit of a pastime around.
Sure, okay.
Love cooking, right? So, any sort of creative ideas or, just making up my own recipes or following some sort of complicated recipe that challenges me. I like to do that a bit. And then look, I think, wherever I can try to get out and connect and socialize, right? I do work from home about 50% of the time. So, it can be a lonely gig at times, just working from your home and, you get up, you start work, you finish, you're at home, right? So I try to get out and socialize and, do a bit of, spend a bit of time out in the community to get me out of the house a bit.
Excellent. Yeah, all good stuff as well. Yeah, I'm a big music fan as well. No musical talent whatsoever, but I couldn't live without music. It's always on in the background, walking, running, except wherever I am. It's washing up in the kitchen. It's like, hey, music has to be on. I can't do that in silence. Maybe I just don't want my own thoughts in my head.
Is just as important.
But yeah. Maybe I don't want the own thoughts in the head, so music blocks it out. But hey, that's for my therapist to work through. But that's all good. So yeah, we're excited as well with what day one of have building, and really love the partnership. And yeah, and thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I know we'll be in touch, and we hope to see day one grow and grow and grow.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah, we really appreciate the partnership as well. And thank you again for inviting us on today.
Absolute pleasure. Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Have a good day. See you, Luke.